A national campaign to vaccinate tens of millions of Americans against the H1N1 or swine flu, as you know it, kicked off today. It'll be given via nasal spray and eventually by shots. Pregnant women and children who are at higher risk are to be given the first doses. Take a look.
Hospitals in Memphis and Indianapolis among the first to get batches of the swine flu vaccine today.
Their health departments are getting the shipments first, but other states are going to start receiving their shipments soon as well.
The first batch of the vaccine is going to be in a nasal spray form, and then in about a week or so, swine flu shots will be ready.
40 million flu shots doses will be available by mid-month.
A lot of people, though, still split over whether or not to get the vaccine. Some people want it, some people don't. So we have asked Dr. Oz, of course, of the Dr.Oz show, to help us break down some of the concerns that are out there. Welcome to you. Good to see
Thanks,
you.
Cam. Good to see you.
So doctors' offices, as you know, are being swamped with calls right now because people are hearing that the vaccine is starting to become available. What do we know about when and where the average person can actually get it?
I still think we're probably 3 weeks away from the average person being able to easily get the vaccine. And for many Americans, that's not a crazy amount of time to wait because although it has already started and we are seeing swine flu cases, it really hasn't built up the kind of volume that I know we'll see over the next few weeks. There is a website, flu.gov, which actually gives you information about your local community about where they will be giving the flu shots. But you actually have to call to see if they have what's needed yet. And this is especially important for the high-risk populations, the pregnant women, the kids under 2 years of age, people who have chronic illnesses. They're the ones, and by the way, me, healthcare providers. We have to get, in fact, New York Presbyterian, where I practice, it is mandated we all get vaccinated by the end of this month.
Now, schools are going to give the vaccines in some cases. We're hearing pediatricians' offices, especially when we're talking about kids maybe getting them. Do you know whether, like if you're a parent, you're trying to decide, do I let my kid do it at school? Do I take him to the pediatrician?
Well, the fairest way the government thought was to distribute the vaccines to the individual states and let states do what they usually do pretty well, which is to administer public health. So it's very possible to be available in your school, but depending on which school system you're in, they may have preferred to have supermarkets delivered or, pharmacies, right. Large public areas. Oftentimes hospitals will have a public facility to be able to administer vaccines. So there are many places you can go. But Campbell, I think the big story is what you mentioned earlier. I would bet half the population is watching the show right now and saying, I'm not sure I want that. And they're saying, I can always treat myself if I get infected. I won't get infected anyway. And, would it be that big of an illness if I did get it? And I think we're actually wandering into a very interesting dilemma, which is that the government and healthcare providers are saying, we advise this. It makes sense to you. But if we push too hard, we actually build up more resistance. We've got to be very fair about saying, listen, this is just like a government warning a population about an oncoming hurricane. Right? If it's a Class 4 hurricane coming towards New Orleans before Katrina, you got to tell people it might be a problem. Sometimes the hurricane misses. But if it does hit, people should at least be knowledgeable that they made their own choices.
But you say that, and to your point, we looked into this. There's a new poll out from the Harvard School of Public Health that only 40% of adults say they are absolutely certain they're going to get the vaccine. Yeah. That means most of the country is either on the fence or they're not going to do it. The reasons they're giving is they're concerned about possible side effects from the vaccine. They don't think they're at risk of serious illness, and they think that if they do get it, that they're going to be able to get Tamiflu or Relenza or one of these medicines. I mean, aren't those valid reasons to maybe skip it?
Some of them are valid reasons, but remember, part of the desire that you have in getting the population immunized is to prevent the virus from spreading to those who aren't protected, people who are more at risk, young kids, I mentioned, pregnant women. And so you might weather the storm, but from a population's perspective, it may not be best for us. And by the way, when you get the flu, you're sick for a week. Yes, vast majority of the time you'll be fine unless you're one of those high-risk groups. And although Relenza does work well, Tamiflu is already building up resistance. I think it would be wise for us to prevent the illness if it's possible. And with regard to risks, there is no question, Campbell. It would be dishonest to say that we know for sure the vaccine is going to be safe for everybody. You give a vaccine to a couple 100 million people, there are going to be problems. And we won't even know if those problems are related to the vaccine. But to be fair to many Americans who are concerned, there's probably going to be some issues that arise with the vaccine, but we think they're going to be exceedingly rare. Even if they're as bad as they were in 1976 with the immunization given for the swine flu that resulted in Guillain-Barré, the incidence of getting that wasn't that much different from getting hit by lightning. The proverbial risk factor most of us shy away from.
Look, you are telling a mother who is trying to decide myself whether to get my kids vaccinated when the time comes. And I'm reading this, 51% of parents, only 51% are absolutely certain. I'll be honest, I'm in that 50% that isn't absolutely certain. So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Campbell, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all. But I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz. And so you are just like most Americans. All I can say is that there are going to be 2 extremes of the population. Some folks who say, you know what, I'm going to do this, it's right for all of us, I'm going to make it happen. And some of us are going to say, you know what, I just don't want that. I don't like the idea of government and being involved. I feel pressured. It's not that big a deal. It's all a hoax. There's hysteria, etc. Most folks are in the middle. And my hope from programs like this and others is you'll provide a rational outlook and say, you know what, for most of us, it's the right thing to do. But the most important groups, pregnant women, young children, they're absolutely the groups we fear immunizing the most. But they're the ones that have a much higher complication rate from the swine flu.
It's true. To your point, I know we're out of time here, but pregnant women 6 times more likely to die from swine flu. The numbers are really frightening.
And I don't want anybody who's pregnant or who has young kids to watch this program and think, you know what, I should be on the fence. Those are the groups that I really want to make the message clear to. If all of us in the healthcare field, and we know what the risks are, we're immunizing ourselves, please let that influence you a little bit.
All right. Good advice. Dr. Mehmet Oz, always good to talk to you. Really appreciate you here. And congratulations with the show. I know it's a huge hit. Very excited.
It's very gratifying. Thanks, Campbell.